Last week, I visited Hersheypark in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Often considered one of America's best theme parks, this place certainly impressed me. It has great atmosphere, amazing food, and most of all, an incredible selection of roller coasters. This is yet another park that has something for everybody. From a great assortment of family attractions to high-level thrill rides, the 13 coasters of Hersheypark provide plenty of excitement for all ages. So for this video, I'm going to be counting down these coasters from my least to most favorite. Before we get started with the top 10 though, here are 3 coasters that didn't make the cut. Number 13 is Wildcat. This was the first GCI wooden coaster ever built, and while the manufacturer went on to create amazing attractions like White Lightning and Mystic Timbers, this is certainly a rough start. Looks are definitely deceiving with this one. Despite its impressive first drop and use of Millennium Flyer trains, the track is way too rough to enjoy riding it. Unlike rides like Thunderhawk and the Beast, which only have a few bumpy moments, Wildcat is consistently bumpy and has a fair share of jackhammering, which took away from the admittedly promising layout. Ordinarily, I would suggest an RMC treatment of this ride, but considering the sentimental value it has as GCI's first coaster, I don't see anything more than a retracking happening. Pretty much the only things I liked about this coaster were the gopher I saw watching it from the queue line and the weird seal noises it made on the final brake run. Moving on. Number 12 is the Coco Cruiser. Now ordinarily I would put this kiddie coaster in last, but I actually had a decent ride on it, and a rather unusual one to boot. You see, this was the last new credit I managed to grab on Monday before I was rained out, and I actually rode this coaster in the pouring rain. Surprisingly enough, while most of the park's coasters do close in heavy rain, this one didn't. So it was like riding some kind of water coaster, and it was actually pretty fun, especially since it was still pretty hot out. If you're going to ride a Zamperla family gravity coaster, definitely do it in the rain. Number 11 is Wild Mouse. What else can I say about this ride except it's a Wild Mouse? If you've ridden any other outdoor non-spinning Wild Mouse, you know what to expect. Nothing great, but nothing awful either. Though I do prefer the one at Dorney Park. At least that one had some padding on the T-bar separating the riders. Starting off the top 10 is Trailblazer. This is an aero mine train that is more about scenic views than high-speed thrills. It's perfect for families, and that final helix is very nice to look at. Plus, it's running pretty smoothly, which is always good to see on these old aero coasters. Unfortunately though, it is a pretty short ride compared to other mine trains I've ridden, so I didn't find it to be as fun as Carolina Gold Rusher at Carowinds or Adventure Express at Kings Island. Still though, while I do wish it was longer, it was a nice little ride. If you have kids that aren't quite thrill seekers yet, this coaster is for them. Coming in at number 9 is Sidewinder, the park's Vekoma boomerang. I will say, while this is just your average boomerang, it is one of the better ones out there. This boomerang has those new trains with the vest restraints so you don't bang your head around. The lack of head banging allows you to properly enjoy the coaster's forceful drops and inversions. Since it's a boomerang though, I can only rank it so high, as you can find them pretty much at any other park out there. But I will say, it's one boomerang I wouldn't mind riding again. Number 8 is the Super Duper Looper. For quite some time, I've been getting messages from viewers asking me what coaster they should ride first if they've never experienced an inversion. My first choice will always be this one. While it's far from the tallest or fastest coaster at the park, it still provides a pretty exciting experience at a relatively low height limit compared to the park's other attractions. The loop isn't very intense, but it's even more fun to experience with the ride's standard lap bars. I remember not expecting the loop at all when I was younger. I figured that if it didn't have any shoulder restraints, it would be unsafe to ride. Of course, that was before I learned about the power of G-forces. As for the ride's layout, it takes advantage of the terrain around it, which I'm certainly a sucker for. I love terrain coasters, and if this ride was built on a flat surface, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. Whether young or old, Super Duper Looper is one of those coasters you can't help but have fun with. Next up at number 7 is Comet, the oldest coaster still operating at the park. This PTC Woody may not seem like much on the surface, but much like Yankee Cannonball at Canopy Lake Park, I was shocked at how well it's running. A front row ride on this is not only incredibly smooth for a vintage Woody, but its turns and drops are actually pretty exciting, and you can even get some decent airtime on it. Even if you're not a fan of wooden coasters, I definitely recommend checking this one out. Number 6 is Laff Trakk. This coaster is so much fun. While I didn't expect much out of it, I was extremely impressed by the ride experience. The fact that it's an indoor roller coaster makes it much more exciting than it would be if it was outdoors. Naturally, because it takes place in the dark, it'll feel faster and much more thrilling than it actually is. And while I wouldn't call it an intense ride experience, I'd absolutely call it fun for the whole family. Riders young and old will love the twists and turns in the dark, illuminated only by its vibrant and colorful glow-in-the-dark paint. Its effects make it the perfect combination of funhouse and roller coaster. And the best part is that since it's indoors, this ride will operate even with lightning in the area. I will warn you though, the lines for this coaster get pretty long even without bad weather, so definitely hit it up first when you go to Hersheypark. Starting off the top 5 is Great Bear, the park's first and only coaster by B&M. While it wasn't that intense, the ride gets a big thumbs up from me for its unique spread out layout and for being the most scenic B&M invert I've ever ridden. While most B&M inverts I've ridden are restricted to their own plots of land, this one goes over water, walkways, and other attractions at the park. On the first helix after the lift hill, you get amazing views of the Coal Cracker, Skyrush, and Comet, and you can even get a decent view of the rest of the park beyond the trees. Plus, it's incredibly smooth, has huge entertaining inversions, and is more than worth your time overall. And here's a fun fact, this is actually one of my mother's favorite roller coasters, so Great Bear has my mom's seal of approval. Number 4 is Lightning Racer, the park's dueling GCI Woody. Unlike Wildcat, this GCI is exceptionally good. While it may not be quite as smooth as their newest coasters, it still gives an incredible ride, and you can easily ignore whatever minor bumps the coaster may throw at you. Whether you're in the front or the back, both tracks give fast-paced and thrilling rides packed with airtime and exhilarating twists and turns. In addition, the operations on this coaster are some of the best I've ever seen. You're pretty much guaranteed to race another train every single time, and nothing beats the priceless entertainment value of racing your friends on a roller coaster. This coaster would still be great if it didn't duel, but the fact that it does gives it a whole nother level of excitement. Lightning Racer is highly recommended. And now we've come to the top 3, the order of which is often wildly debated by enthusiasts. All of these coasters are made by Intamin, and all of them are astonishing. Number 3 for me is Fahrenheit. This coaster is basically a buffet of amazing elements all wrapped up into one attraction. First, you've got that 97-degree beyond vertical drop, which really gets things off to a great start. The feeling of the track folding in underneath you is something truly indescribable that you really have to experience on your own to understand. Right after the drop, you're thrown into one wild ride full of crazy, forceful inversions. My personal favorite are the high-speed corkscrews. Towards the end of the ride, you even get a nice pop of ejector airtime. While this coaster isn't really known for its airtime, that one airtime hill was a very memorable one. By the time the ride ends, you'll be eager to hop back in line, but again, watch out because the lines for this coaster can also get pretty long. Taking the silver is Storm Runner, the park's Intamin accelerator, and as of right now, my favorite launch coaster. You heard that right. While its layout is on the shorter side, this is the very definition of short but sweet. Let me tell you, the first launch is so intense, it's sure to take you by surprise if you're a first-time rider. Its acceleration is just insane. As if the launch wasn't awesome enough, you then get sent through a top hat which gives incredible amounts of airtime at the top and may even cause you to black out at the bottom. And I actually grayed out on the bottom of this ride's top hat. This, along with the ensuing inversions, provide an evenly paced layout that never has a dull moment. It may not be as long as Fahrenheit, but for me, the sheer adrenaline rush Storm Runner gave made me give this coaster the edge. And now we've come to Skyrush at number 1. This coaster is flat out legendary. It is the tallest coaster at the park, and it gives a ride like no other. There is so much to love about this coaster. First of all, its compact layout over the water is stunningly gorgeous, and is almost as much fun to look at as it is to ride. Moreover, it has perhaps the most intense ejector airtime that you can get on a roller coaster. You just zoom through the layout, constantly lifting up out of your seat. Now, I have heard a few people say they didn't like the restraints on this ride, some even labeling this coaster as thigh crush. However, that didn't stop me from having a blast. Now, granted, I did get stapled on one of my rides, and the restraints were pretty painful on the final brake run. But let me tell you, on my first ride, the restraints were absolutely fine, and I didn't find them to be nearly as painful as some people said they were. Now, I only got a chance to ride this coaster in a back row inner seat, so I didn't get to experience one of the wing seats. But from what I've experienced, I'd be more than happy to ride this coaster again and again. Hersheypark is truly blessed to have not just one, but 3 amazing Intamin coasters, and I'll definitely be coming back soon. Before I sign off for today, I'd like to make 2 announcements. First, there's a new weekly poll on themeparkcrazy.com. I've asked about your favorite Six Flags and Cedar Fair parks in the past, and now I'm going to ask you what your favorite non-Six Flags or Cedar Fair park is. Also, I am planning a meetup at Six Flags Great Adventure on Saturday, September 9th. We'll be meeting at the entrance to El Toro at noon, and if you want to RSVP, feel free to do so in the comments, or head on down to my Facebook page and do so on the event page. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to subscribe and follow
follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You could find links in the description. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.